everybody. It's Chris and Rick Talk Guitars. That's Chris right over there in that chair.
How you doing?
And I'm Rick. And we're in the he shed again, talking about stuff, guitar-related stuff. And he and I, the show's basically about just a long list of Chris and my pet peeves, essentially.
Rants.
Whatnot. And that's the fun of the whole thing. One of our rants that we talk about all the time is my guitar player is better than your guitar player.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Neener. Yeah. And, this athletic, competitive aspect of guitar players or guitar playing and also just music in general, right? But we're going to focus on guitar players because that's, kind of what we do. So he and I, whenever we see like these battles online or wherever, we just kind of chuckle to ourselves and it gives us fodder to talk about. But Chris, why don't you kind of outline how you feel about this whole phenomenon of mine is better than yours?
All right, I'm just kind of taking this in right now and kind of, because we talked about doing this topic and I'm way into it, but I haven't really thought about it in this context. I will say one thing that I enjoy about this, again, this goes back to that thing of me, one of my pastimes is like accident watching online and watching like drama unfold online. And one of the things that always struck me about these is there's a couple of ways they'll roll them. And one of them is the most underrated guitar player, and that's the one that I because actually if you took that and made it into something like under the radar guitar players, so people could find guitar players that they may not be familiar with, but people don't know how to operate that, so you go to those threads, and a lot of times someone will be biggest underrated guitar player. It'll be like Mark Knopfler, Brian May,
Jimmy Page.
It's like it's like, what is the rating system?
Right.
I don't really get it. It's like if somebody has like a pod preset named after them, they're probably not underrated. I don't know what a true. Let me ask you, what would a true underrated guitar player be? If we were having this thread and it had some sort of reasonable rating system, right? Like, what's an underrated guitar player?
Well, something comes to mind right now that you and I watched that Prince guitar solo when they were all doing "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," right? And then there was another guitar player who I don't even know his name. I don't know if you do either, but he was in the band and he was playing guitar and he was playing this tasty stuff that was like...
Oh yeah, it was the Clapton stuff from
it was
the record.
And so to me, an underrated player would be somebody like that you don't really even know of, but you maybe they're a session player, or like that guy I turned you on to. Remember that I was looking at the Bread video from the 70s BBC.
Oh yeah, the session guy.
And there's the session guy, and he's just playing tasty, great stuff, great guitar stuff. And so, and he's a session guy, so you probably heard him on tons of records, but you wouldn't really know his name. So that to me would be an underrated player because you don't know. You've heard his great work, but you don't know who he is, and he doesn't get a lot of fanfare as a guitar player, but he's just out there doing his thing.
Right, and now with YouTube, you can go out and check these people out, so it'd actually be a great vehicle for discovering new people if people knew how to operate it. Mark Knopfler is not an underrated guitar player. He's like, anytime someone puts a Strat in the quack position and goes, check it out, Mark Knopfler. That's not an underrated guitar player.
Quack.
And Brian May. And I remember actually commenting one time, like just trying to find out some information. I was like, why do you think he's underrated? And they're like, well, your average person wouldn't know who it was. Anybody who knows what a guitar is probably knows. If they don't, fuck them. They don't belong in this. I mean, they can't play this game, because then the only guitar player who's rated is Jimi Hendrix. Someone that's so in your face that, everybody just assumes he's he's rated perfectly or whatever.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's very confusing, but it's very amusing. And I do know that this kind of stuff, I think, is very sports related, especially in this country, the way this country handles sports. A lot of people, the way they handle it, it breaks down to your team. He's my team, not my team, whatever, and I'm behind him 100%, that sort of thing. But anytime you try to do that with art, it becomes ridiculous. It's like, who was a better painter, Picasso or Van Gogh? It sounds ridiculous.
Exactly.
But it's the same thing.
That's exactly right.
And then the other side is the overrated guitar player. And those are really shitty threads anyways, because it's like, you know what? We're all going to have likes and dislikes, so it's really ridiculous. That whole, my God-given opinion is better than anybody else's.
Exactly.
Which is like, there's too much of that on the internet, in my opinion.
Well, and again, like you were saying, all of that stuff that you just mentioned is driven by this competitive bullshit, athletic competition crap. And in art, it doesn't work at all because, and you and I, again, another caveat, you and I have people we like and people we don't really care for.
I think
their stuff
does.
And everybody does. But what I've tried to do as I've gotten older is say, rather than going, oh, that guy sucks or that person sucks, I'll just go, no, that person doesn't speak to me. That music doesn't speak to me. Yeah. And occasionally I'll still say it sucks to me or whatever, but the underlying driver to all this is this competitive crap that people, especially like you're saying in our society, we're just so geared for competition, right? Everything's a competition, and in art it's bullshit because like I've heard people say, like, for instance, singers, Dylan's a shitty singer. It's like, no, he's not. He's actually a great singer because his voice is
in his heyday was like a fine.
Totally.
Like Neil Young, the same thing. It's like
Neil Young,
a piano.
Exactly.
Everything is right where it should be with his voice.
Or guitar players. Like there are some great fucking guitar players that are punk guitar players,
right?
And their whole thing isn't about technical ability or scales or any of this other bullshit. It's about expressing themselves on this instrument in a way that is unique to them and is being expressed through that genre of music, punk.
Right. There's people like, I think you and I are like this where, song-serving guitarists are way up there. But I totally understand. If you go back to that video, let's take that Prince and the I don't know who the guitar player was either in that While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Sure, there's a bunch of people are going to key into what Prince does because Prince is a badass guitar player. Totally. He's great and he's really talented, great songwriter. So what he's doing is so far out front that it, even the average layperson is going to like their ears are going to prick up. Like he's doing stuff. Look at that.
Yeah.
He's like, and where people like you and I are more focused on the way that this guy is executing those really melodic around the song stuff that was, just more song-oriented kind of lines right from the record. And that's the stuff where I go to. And I understand not everybody's going to do that. The competition thing isn't helped by certain genres of music like bluegrass and a lot of the blues. They kind of push that competitive thing. And that's where I kind of like, as much as I love those forms of music, that's an element of it I don't like. Bluegrass is very competitive. Yeah. That's where I part ways with like somebody who is way more into technical proficiency and me who's more into playing for the song is, those types of music can have a tendency to be just like where a guitarist learns a collection of licks and just sprinkles them throughout. And their thing is how they sprinkle these licks that they know. Blues is like that a lot.
Yeah.
And not always, though.
No.
But someone like Clarence White, who learned bluegrass music, took it another way, where he's just like, you listen to some of this bird stuff, and he's like, here's my bluegrass, but I'm doing this other shit here. Yeah. And it's inside of this song. I'm playing around these chords and coming up with this shit. So, I mean, it's doable, and I have a tendency to lean more towards the song-oriented stuff.
Yeah.
But blues is the same way. I mean, you just like, check out this dude. He's like, his blues licks, and you listen, and it's just like him taking some blues licks and moving them around, and just like collecting licks. And I'm not gonna poo-poo that because it's like, you hear people, and I can be blown away by somebody. But for me, a guitar player doesn't really even move me that much unless they happen to be in the context of music I like.
Yep.
And what they do inside of a song. So those are my criteria.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I mean, I still, like when I was growing up and when I was young, I was really one of the suckers for like flashy guitar work and fast guitar playing and stuff, and I really got into that. But as I got older, but I must say, even at that age, I really did appreciate like good songs and serving a song. But I definitely, there was a part of me that I was a sucker for that shit. It was like a lure in the water, man. And I was after it. But as I've gotten older too, even more so now, I really have come to appreciate musicians in general that just serve the song, man. Because if you hear a great song that's well written, well executed, I mean, and again, that's subjective. But anyway, if I hear a song like that speaks to me, that does so much more for me than listening to some guitar player like, Eddie or Yngwie or something like that execute 1,000 notes in a passage. You know what I mean? And and again, all of these genres and all of these players appeal to somebody, and that's great. But that's the cool thing about art is that, take the competition away and just go, hey, these are the things I like, and for a lot of people too, I have eclectic taste in music. Like I like everything from ABBA to Zappa to you name it. I mean, there's something in there for me almost with any genre. But guitar players, I've just really grown to appreciate players who serve the song and who play melodically and lyrically, because that's just what really appeals to me. You know.
And also, if I'm 100% honest, there's probably not many guitar players that exist that I don't find something that I can take away from. Yeah. Whether, you know, it's just like even watching, you know, somebody that I might be like, oh, they don't really speak to me, but watch them play and you can get shit from them. And it's like if you remain open to that. I mean, what did I have? I had something to say. You talk.
But yeah, I mean, what I try to do is keep in mind that whoever I'm listening to, somebody likes it, you know, somebody thinks that's their guy or gal, right. Which is totally cool. But, again, it just irks me when people poo-poo somebody like a punk guitar player, for instance. Oh, that guy can't even tune his fucking guitar. It's like, well, he's playing or she's playing in a genre where it's not about technical proficiency so much as just their emotion, the emotion or angst that they're conveying through their instrument. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's art. All of this stuff is art. Whether it's, you know, maybe it's not high art, again, whatever that is, but, you know, it's some person expressing him or herself through this instrument in a certain way. And if they do it in a way that appeals to a lot of people, that's something, you know?
Right. I mean, and if you're open to that, you get to like people from Michael Schenker to Johnny Thunders. I mean, exactly. I like those guitar players exactly the same.
Exactly.
For exactly different reasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people who are really technically like minded would just like really like probably wouldn't get Johnny Thunders as like a guitar hero.
Right.
Which I think I fucking love the way he plays guitar in the context of that band.
Totally.
And, you know, Ace Frehley is like one of my favorite. There's a lot of people that are super highly technical will say like he's kind of shitty, which he might be, but the way he does, he makes me smile. I mean, he's got a style, and from him, me liking him, it was like I listened to someone like Bob Stinson from Replacements, which always reminded me of like somebody who's a cross between Ace Frehley and like prog rock.
Right.
He had a really interesting style, and a lot of people won't even give these, you know, guitar players a chance. But if you start listening to really diverse things, you kind of see how this shit fits together. You know, you can start to see people's influences, and it's great. And I know that one of the hardest things for me, I've probably complained about it or like call it out a lot on this show, is blues rock, like, you know, the white blues, like kind of like hot shot guitar thing. Yeah.
Well, with regard to the blues, I can kind of see where it's a dicey thing for me too, because I love the blues, but I also can see the funkiness of how it's kind of been co-opted by a lot of white players or just, a lot of hot shot guitar players and stuff like that.
I think hotshot more than, it's not even really a white thing anymore. Right. I think it's just like that That's whole true. Like hotshot sporty element that we're talking about, where it's just like, check it out, the song is just a placeholder for me to stick my solo.
Right. It becomes this, it becomes a lick competition rather than like you were saying, the blues, if you listen to all these old blues people, it's all about the rhythm. And it's all about the feel. You know, it's this chunk. I mean, you know, they're trying to emulate a railroad car, or they're trying to emulate some sound that was pervasive in their lives to convey stuff. It wasn't about all these licks and stuff like that. I would say even with B.B. King or any of those other guys, because even B.B. King was like understated in terms of, you know, fast playing or licks or all this other crap. But, somehow the blues warped into this weird competitive thing where now it's like, you know, you've got all these people who are trying to play fast and I think it just loses sight of what the blues really is or what that genre is supposed to be.
And
really.
It just turned into a formula. Yeah. Like, I mean, I really love a lot of like old school blues, and I hear way more parallels between like the early records from PJ Harvey and anybody like you know, Joe Bonamassa or something like that. It's that rhythmic like approach, and just like this, it doesn't have to be a straight up here we go blues dun dun dun, dun dun dun. It's just, you know, it's just the way that the song is expressed, and rhythmically, for me anyway, that's what it's always been. So I look for a lot of blues either in old blues or in other music that, you know, has an element of that. You know? And again, it's, you know, adopting from different things and not just making it straight up like we're going to make a formula out of this and then we're going to see who's the best at this.
Exactly. And that's a great point. It's like I kind of love how some people have taken say the blues or something, and then kind of morphed it into, even if it's hip hop or something like that.
Right.
They're retaining this kind of cool fundamental element of this art, of this previous genre, and taking it into another place. But they're doing it in a way that kind of almost, but preserves the integrity of the initial genre, but takes it a little different place, rather than, like you're saying, exactly making a formula and then saying, okay, who are the top 10?
Now we have something to measure each other by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I agree with that totally. And again, I'm a sucker for some of these, hired gun hotshot guitar players, but as I say, as I've gotten older, it's been tempered by just, if I hear a song that I love that doesn't maybe even have a guitar solo in it, I love that song because it's just such a great song. And for me, it's just I've become so song oriented that guitar takes a back seat to, like, every time I listen to a song, it's like, I don't care if I hear a guitar solo or a guitar in the song. I just want to hear a good song.
Right. Let me ask you a question. So if you were like in the mood, you're sitting around, like, I'm cleaning the house or something, and you really wanted to hear a guitar record, like, I want to, like, listen to the guitar, what would you listen to?
For me, I love people like Django Reinhardt, or I love Doc Watson, or Jerry Reed, or Chet Atkins in terms of guitar, because then those guys really are playing a song on the guitar, like you would sit down and play a piano. You know what I mean? They're playing the bass line and they're playing the melody.
Right. So
and that to me, and that to me is like amazing, right? Because they're serving a song and playing the song at the same time, right? Rather than just me putting on a record of a guitar person that just plays guitar licks, you know what I mean? Which I still dig, but for me, again, like, if you can play the guitar that way, or any instrument where you can sit down and play a song and somebody can go, oh, that's the song, I think that's amazing, and that's what I like to listen to. How about you? Like, if you want to sit down and listen to a guitar record, or
it just depends. I mean, sometimes if I'm so, like, steeped in the 70s a lot of times that if I really want to hear a lot of guitar, sometimes I put on maybe Lou Reed's Rock and Roll Animal, because that record sounds so good, and it has two, like, Gibson guitars that sound good. I'll listen to. It just depends. I mean, I have a whole shitload of, like, 70s rock, like sometimes UFO, Rush, anything like that. But I also have some cool 80s stuff and late 70s stuff. Looking at my records right now, I really like the Dream Syndicate guitar, and, like, Green on Red, that kind of era of, like, 80s stuff. It just depends. I have a lot. But right now, if you said, someone came into the room right now and said, I want to hear, like, a guitar record, I'd probably put on Rock and Roll Animal.
Nice.
By Lou Reed. But
that's cool.
It just depends. It's the many moods of music, which is great. And, one thing I found, too, that can be really helpful, and this is something, in getting older, it's not only just about get off my lawn and being crabby all the time. Well, I found that I kind of push myself to find positive things in places when it comes to music.
Nice.
And I remember I had a birthday a few years ago, and someone who I didn't really know, except for back in the high school days, sent me, like, for my birthday, on my wall, posted a video of Joe Satriani, like. And, here, I'm a guitar player. Of course, they assume that I'm going to like this. And, my first thought, I look at it like, ew, it's not really my thing. But I'm like, fuck, this was really cool of this person to think of me. Yeah, it was nice. I checked it out, and I watched it. And the thing, I didn't care anything about the guitar in it. And I don't know what the band was or anything, but I was really impressed with the rhythm section.
Cool.
And you got this guy up here noodling endlessly. And they had a really cool, like, rhythm section. I don't know any of those cats were. So that was what I said, was like, thank you so much. What a great rhythm section. I found something positive.
That's cool.
To say out of that whole thing, instead of, like, I'd rather put my face in a furnace than listen to an entire Joe Satriani song. That's some negative energy.
It is. And again, I feel the same way you do. I think about certain guitar players and like Satriani or Vai or these other people. And again, some people dig those guys, but it just doesn't speak to me, because to me, those guys really do too embody the competitive nature of guitar playing and stuff that we talk about all the time. They, whether they are aware of it or not, they kind of seem to, like, perpetuate that kind of competitive nature of that stuff. And again, I was going to also refer to, like, guitar competitions they have, like Guitar Center or something like this will have, we're having a competition, battle of the guitar players or something like that. I think that, again, there's all these things that just perpetuate this. I think it's negative. I think if people just got more into their instruments and I don't know, it's not going to do away with any of that stuff. But I just I think, like you're saying, with respect to art forms, I don't think this competitive crap does any good at all. And it just alienates people. It's like, you know, like you were saying, like somebody sent you that thing that, you know, you don't really care for the guitar player, but oh, that rhythm section's cool. Maybe I'll find out who those people are. And I'm like, oh yeah, well that guy played bass for so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. But to me, that's another thing that I love about music too, or guitar players, is like that session guy that I was watching on that video.
Do you ever know his name?
No, I forget. But I'm gonna.
But it was on the Bread special.
Bread special from BBC in the 70s, and I'll find it. Maybe we'll put it on our blog. Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah,
and we'll put a link to that thing. But anyway, I love discovering musicians in general like that are like just these gems that most people don't know about, but you find them and you're like, God dang, this guy's really, really good. And and again, the cool thing about him is he's a session guy. So his whole bread and butter is just serving the song. Bread and butter, you know what I mean? And I love that. I just love a musician who's like, their sole purpose is to make your song as good as it can be. Right. You know what I mean? That's cool. Not this competitive thing where, well, check my stuff out, man. I can play, you know, really fast. It's like,
that said, I 100% agree with that. But there's also that reckless element of live, kind of like dangerous, kind of like ready to fall apart. Like that's one of the reasons why I like Ace Frehley is that whole like, you know, it sounds like he's getting ready to fuck up, like on the edge of your seat. I love that too.
Oh, yeah, me too.
You can have it both. It's not a fucking competition.
No, it's not. And exactly. I mean, because like you were saying, I love guitar players. I love Michael Schenker. I love Johnny Thunders. I love, you know, all of these different guitar players all over the place.
But Johnny Thunders could kick the shit out of Michael Schenker.
True. But again, anyway, I just think this competitive crap with regard to music or any art is just silly. And I think you made a good point. It's like, okay, well, let's put Picasso up against Rembrandt or whoever. It's like, who's the best? It's like, are you freaking kidding me? That's a ridiculous.
Picasso could outpaint. I mean, if they were at Guitar Center and they each had their easels, and it was like they had a stopwatch.
You've got 30 seconds
Picasso
to create your masterpiece.
Hands down.
Yeah, I just it doesn't belong in this realm at all. I don't think. And
totally overrated, totally underrated. I don't get those. That. They're never going to end. I mean, that's okay. Yeah. And I'll continue to be amused by them because if there's a thread like that, I'm always on it, just checking it out.
Yeah, and I guess if nothing else, it's good for entertainment, right? It's good to watch people go at it. But
I mean, could you just think for a moment? Could you take something like make it? Because I've heard something to this effect once when someone was talking about Mark Knopfler, and somebody stepped up and said, "You know what? If you like him, you know, you should check out Richard Thompson because he does the same kind of mines the same territory, but he's a lot better." In their opinion, he said he's a lot better.
Right.
There's that kind of competitive thing that can be positive if you present it like, all right, if you like Mark Knopfler, you really should check out Richard Thompson.
Yeah.
He's, you know, a Strat player, played on some really cool tunes, and he has his own thing. I can see like making parallels between guitars can be really helpful. I mean,
no, I think that's a great
point.
For
illuminating certain things, but yeah, the anytime someone says it is better, I mean, I don't have a problem. You know, I don't have a problem with someone going, that guitar player sucks. It's, in their opinion, it's probably true, and it's like, you know, they don't like it, it doesn't speak to them. So for them, it sucks, and that's cool. I mean, I say that sometimes, you know, that sucks.
I know.
I say it, but realizing that if you're really honest with yourself, it doesn't really suck, because as a guitar player, you can see somebody that you might not like, and there's something, if you're astute and you know, kind of pay attention, there's something you can steal from them and make yourself a better guitar player. So I've never, ever think I've watched a guitar player in a live situation where I just went, there's nothing I can get from this person. I can't think of that, or I'm not somehow interested by what they're doing on the guitar because I'm a guitar player.
Or what gear they're playing, you know. That's another thing I dig. Like if I go see any guitar player, like if I happen upon a band and there's a guitar player in the band, I'll just out of curiosity, okay, what pedals are they using? Or that's a weird amp. I've never seen that amp. Or what
sucks.
Guitar that amp. Everything that guy owns sucks.
That amp is not as good as this amp.
No, but you made a great point too about kind of discovery, right? Like if you like this person, you might like this other person. I love that because that is how I've discovered so many guitar players, right? And just through like okay, I love Jimi Hendrix. Oh, and he plays Killing Floor. Well, who did it originally? Oh, man, that, you know, or just on and on. Or any guitar player. Everybody has influences,
or
right?
If you like Richie Blackmore, you may want to stay away from Yngwie Malmsteen. That kind of thing.
Yes, it can be cautionary as well. Right. Yes, but I totally dig that, because that's how I've discovered a lot of music and a lot of musicians, is just through this lineage, right, of the person that I was exposed to for some reason, and then their influences, right? It's like you go back and back, and you find all of these cool artists, or even just laterally, right? Like other people are influenced, even if they're in the same era or something, you know?
Oh, yeah. Or eras is very important, too, because I think somebody like Eric Clapton, who gets a lot of love and a lot of hate.
Overrated.
Is like, right? No, they'll get that, but it's like, which era of Clapton?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Because it's definitely different from me. I mean, my personal opinion is he should have never picked up the Stratocaster, because everything I like is on Gibsons,
right?
You know? And I think he really was a different player too.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the Stratocaster Clapton is everybody's favorite, and they'll hold him up as like the Stratocaster Blues King or something, where it's like a whole bunch of other people are like, no, it's the Les Paul and the SG era. And for me, that's what it is. And 335.
Yep.
So
no, I'm the same way. I like the Cream era of Clapton the best. I think that was when he shined, for me anyway.
So he went from being underrated to overrated.
Well, he's got it all covered.
He does.
But no, that's a great point too, because some guitar players are fortunate enough to have a career that spans several different eras, or of their playing, and it is interesting to see how different they can be. That's until you mentioned that, I didn't really think about it, but exactly. I mean, Clapton played a bunch of different guitars, a bunch of different kind of styles, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so again, like even within one player, you can have different camps of people who are like, screw, I hate his Strat era, or I love his Strat era, and I hate his woman tone and all this other crap or whatever. But yeah, that's interesting too. The competitiveness within one player's various eras,
right. So we can make anything competitive. This is America. Totally. We can do it.
Oh yeah.
No, this is an interesting topic, and it comes up quite a bit if you spend any time on the internet, on the various forums and social media outlets.
Yeah.
So, I see it daily. There's probably a thread up there right now.
Right now as we speak.
My feed about
Mark Knopfler's underrated.
Yeah, totally underrated.
Top 5 guitarists of all time.
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix, underrated.
Exactly.
Most underrated guitar player ever.
Well, it's funny because I was listening to an interview with Buddy Guy recently, and he was talking about how he was never competitive. He just tried to steal whatever he could from everybody that showed him how to play guitar, and he was never competitive about it. He just wanted to or he would say, well, he was humble too about his own playing. He's like, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as T-Bone Walker or any of this other guy. So I have to do more stage antics to try to get people to notice me. And Buddy Guy's one of the great blues players of all time.
I love his early stuff.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. So even within and again, I think within guitar players, big guitar players, there's probably competition and competitive nature, but it was interesting for me to hear him say that, like, he wasn't competitive. He was just trying to find his place, right? In this whole pantheon of great blues players, and he did it, and
no, I think for an artist, competition is definitely good.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're applying it towards your art.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is like blowing everybody away. I'm going to look inside myself and come up with something and present it, but it's just like not just taking music and making it competitive, or the music that this person creates is shit. This music this person creates is great, even though we do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like there's ways to do it healthy. I guess that's what it is. We're kind of changing our views here.
I think what you've done is you've made a good point, and you've kind of done what you said you're trying to do as you get older, is find positives instead of negatives. And the positive you just said, which is great, is even the competitiveness within guitar players themselves can be good if it's inspirational. Right?
I said that?
Yeah, you said
Sweet.
that. Isn't that great? Yeah. No, but I find that to be the case too, because you and I do this all the time. We'll see a guitar player and we'll go, God damn, that person's great. Like, right. I'm going to sell him my crap. Or, you can go, I'm going to try to figure that out. Like you and I, we went through our bluegrass phase where it's like, let's try to play this. And it was really fun.
We can't play
bluegrass. No, but it was inspiring, right? Because for a while we were like getting our acoustics out and our mandolins, and we were playing stuff, and it was really fun, even if it's short-lived, or we'll revisit it, I'm sure, sometime.
No, I from that era that you're just talking about, the bluegrass, I have things that I play in songs now. I mean, I still, and that's my whole approach, and I've talked about that before in another episode, is like stealing stuff from, we were trying to get competitive in the bluegrass thing. We were trying to really fix this shit.
Trying to get a blue ribbon. Yeah.
Right. But all we ended up with is some licks. If you get 5 licks from, spending like a couple months exploring something, and they end up in your repertoire to like help build guitar sections and songs, I think it's great.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point, is just to use kind of that, you may feel competitive about it, but just use it as an inspiration and say, God, I want to, I really dig that person's playing. I'm going to try to get into their head a little bit and figure that out. And that's what I try to do too when I hear a guitar player I like, is I try to kind of get into their headspace and say, well, how are they thinking about doing this? Or I always like to watch video of them too play and say, oh, that's where they're playing it on the neck. And, I was playing it at a different spot. But again, that kind of competitiveness is cool because it's inspiring you to up your game or just become a better musician, which is cool.
No, it's
that aspect of it, cool. I think, is positive.
Yeah, the YouTube video has been really great for doing that. But what really sucks about that is when you see somebody doing it, and you're like, okay, that's where they're doing it, and you still can't fucking do it, and you're like, I really suck. I mean, if you have trying to like stick the needle on a groove in a record, you're like, well, I can't figure it out, of course, because it's really hard. It's not this right speed and all this other shit. But you see someone do it and you can't do it, you're like, I suck.
Yeah, it can be demoralizing, but try not to get bummed out. Try to stay positive. Like Chris and I, we're positive guys for the most part.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Well, that was awesome. I hope you guys dug that. Chris and I sure dug it because it's on our long list of peeves that we like to talk about and rant about. You got anything else to say, Pat?
Check that one off.
Check it off.
No, I think we've covered that topic.
Sweet. Yeah. And again, the takeaway is love whatever you love, but try to open your mind and not be so competitive when you compare players and stuff, and just try to take something away from as many people as you can. And,
but please keep those posts coming, because I like.
But we do like to, we get a kick out of watching you guys duke it out online, and occasionally we kind of throw, spitwads in there too, occasionally too. So what the heck?
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt.
All right, well, let's get out of here, man. Listen to our stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Adios.
Bye.